The sun was just beginning to dip behind the trees, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and orange. The streets were quiet, and a group of bikers had parked near a small park at the edge of the neighborhood. They were not dangerous men, despite the leather jackets and motorcycles. Most of them had spent years helping people in their community, and they often rode together for fun, but also to watch out for anyone who might need help. It was supposed to be a peaceful evening, just a few friends sharing stories and laughing after a long week. Suddenly, a small figure appeared at the corner of the park. It was a little girl, probably no older than 7 or 8. Her shoes were worn, and her hair was slightly messy, as if she had been running for a long time. Her eyes were wide and filled with fear, and she clutched a small old bag tightly against her chest. She ran toward the bikers, her tiny legs moving as fast as they could, her breathing fast and uneven. Tears streamed down her cheeks, leaving streaks through the dirt on her face. When the bikers saw her, they froze for a moment. No one expected a child to come running up to them so frantically. One of the older bikers, a woman with kind eyes, instinctively knelt down to meet her at eye level. She called out gently, asking the girl what was wrong, and the little girl stopped for a moment, panting and looking around as if someone was chasing her. Her voice was barely a whisper at first, trembling and shaky. She said she needed help, that her dad was hurting her and she didn't know where else to go. The bikers' faces changed immediately. They had seen troubled kids before, but the fear in her eyes was different. It was raw and urgent, a kind of fear that made their stomachs tighten. They knew they had to act quickly. One of the bikers, a tall man with a gentle voice, spoke softly, asking her to tell them everything that happened. She shook her head and started to cry again. But then, after a moment, she began to speak in short, hurried sentences. She explained that her dad had been mean to her for a long time, yelling and hitting her. Sometimes he would lock her in her room, and she was scared to sleep because she didn't know what he might do next. She said she finally ran away because she couldn't take it anymore. As she talked, the bikers noticed her eyes darting to the street again and again. It was clear she was terrified her dad might find her. The woman who had knelt down put a hand gently on the girl's shoulder, trying to reassure her. She told her she was safe now, that no one would hurt her while they were there. The girl nodded slightly, still trembling, but she held onto her bag even tighter. The bag seemed almost like a shield, something that kept her courage and her fear contained at the same time. The bikers quickly huddled together to discuss what to do. They knew they had to act carefully. Taking her straight home or anywhere she might be found too easily could be dangerous. One of the bikers pulled out his phone quietly and called the local authorities, explaining the situation and asking for urgent help. They made sure to speak in a calm voice, not to frighten the girl further. She watched them closely, still unsure if she could trust them completely. While waiting, the bikers tried to make her feel safe. They asked her to tell them about her bag. She hesitated, her small fingers clutching the strap nervously, but after a few moments she slowly opened it. Inside, there were a few personal items, a small notebook with her handwriting, a few pieces of paper that looked like they had been written in a hurry, and a cell phone. She held each item as if it had been precious to her for a long time, which it probably was. The bikers looked at the notebook and papers with gentle curiosity. They saw drawings and notes, little snapshots of her life, and strangely her fears. The handwriting was messy, but it told a story of a child who had lived in constant worry. Some notes mentioned being yelled at or hit, and others had her drawings of her home showing herself and her father. The bikers exchanged glances, realizing that this little girl had been brave enough to document everything quietly on her own, hoping that someday someone might see and help. The girl's fear seemed to soften slightly as they spoke to her. She began to explain a little more about why she ran away. She had tried to tell other adults before, but no one had listened. Maybe they thought she was exaggerating, or maybe they just didn't see the signs. Now, standing with these bikers, she felt a glimmer of hope. Finally, there were people who were listening and who seemed to care. They encouraged her gently, telling her it was not her fault, and that she had done the right thing by running away. One of the bikers offered her a bottle of water and a small snack from his backpack, and she took them with trembling hands. She was exhausted, both from running and from holding in her fear for so long. The bikers spoke in calm, steady voices, making sure she could feel some sense of normalcy again, even in this moment of chaos. While they waited for the authorities to arrive, the bikers stayed close to her. They told her stories to distract her, asking about her favorite things, her school, and her friends. The little girl hesitated at first, but eventually, a small smile appeared on her face. It was faint, but it was a start. She had been carrying so much fear and pain that even a small moment of kindness felt huge. As the evening wore on, the bikers realized that this encounter was more than just a random act of kindness. They understood that they were witnessing the beginning of a life-changing moment for this child. The trust she was slowly placing in them was fragile, but it was real. They knew that with careful action and support, they could help her escape the danger that had loomed over her for so long. The little girl continued to hold her bag close, unaware that the items inside would soon play a crucial role in protecting her. For now, she felt a tiny bit of safety, surrounded by people who genuinely cared. The bikers, too, felt a mix of emotions, concern, protectiveness, and a growing determination to ensure that nothing bad would happen to her while she was with them. By the time the first police car arrived, the girl had calmed down slightly. She still clutched her bag, but she wasn't crying as much. She looked at the bikers, and for the first time that day, there was a spark of relief in her eyes. The bikers gently explained that the police were there to help, and that everything would be okay. She nodded slowly, unsure but willing to trust. It was the beginning of a long, challenging journey, but it was also the first step toward safety and a new life. Even after the police took over, the bikers stayed nearby, making sure the girl felt supported. They knew that their quick response had made a difference. What had started as a sudden, frightening encounter in a quiet park had turned into an act of protection and hope. The little girl, clutching her bag filled with secrets and evidence of her courage, was finally on a path where she could be safe and heard. And the bikers, ordinary people with big hearts, had become the first heroes she could truly rely on. The little girl sat quietly on the edge of the park bench, still clutching her small bag to her chest. The bikers stood close, forming a protective circle around her. The authorities had been contacted, but it would take a few minutes for them to arrive. Every second felt long and tense, especially for the girl. Her small body trembled slightly, and her eyes kept darting toward the street, as if she expected her father to appear at any moment. The bikers noticed her fear and spoke in calm, reassuring voices, letting her know she was safe for now. They wanted her to trust them fully, but they also knew that gaining the trust of a child in her situation would take time. One of the bikers, a man who had spent many years volunteering in the community, knelt beside her and gently asked about her bag. She hugged it tighter and shook her head, afraid to show them its contents. The woman who had first spoken to her encouraged her softly, telling her that nothing inside could hurt her and that they wanted to help. Slowly, hesitantly, the little girl opened the bag just a little and peeked inside. She revealed a few small items, carefully arranged, each one significant to her in a way the bikers could not yet understand. Inside, there was a notebook, the pages worn and frayed, filled with tiny, careful handwriting. There were also several folded pieces of paper and a small, slightly old cell phone. The bikers looked at each other, sensing that the bag held more than just simple belongings. They asked her about the notebook, and she whispered that she had written down everything that had happened at home. Every time she had been scared, every time she had been hurt. The bikers' hearts tightened as they realized how brave she had been, documenting her life in secret, hoping that someone would notice someday. The girl hesitated, then showed them the folded papers. Some were drawings depicting herself, her father, and sometimes her mother. In the drawings, she often drew herself small and sad, and her father looming large and angry. Other papers had short notes about fights, threats, and moments when she had been locked away. The bikers realized that these items were evidence of abuse, something that could not be ignored. The seriousness of the situation became clear. They needed to act carefully, but they also needed to ensure her safety immediately. The little girl looked at them nervously, waiting for a response. One of the bikers, a woman with a calm demeanor, took a deep breath and told her that they were going to help her, that she did not have to face her father alone anymore. She explained that the authorities were on their way, and that together they would make sure her father could not hurt her again. The girl's eyes widened slightly, a mix of hope and lingering fear. She asked if she could keep her bag close, and the bikers nodded, understanding that the bag was her comfort and her shield. While they waited, the bikers asked her to tell them more about her life at home. She hesitated, her voice trembling as she began to speak. She explained that for a long time she had lived in fear, Her father had been controlling, often yelling at her for small mistakes and sometimes hitting her when he was angry. She had tried to confide in adults before, but no one believed her or they dismissed her fears. She said that sometimes she would hide in her room, clutching her notebook and pretending everything was normal. But that was just a way to survive. She had been alone, and the constant fear had become unbearable. The bikers listened carefully, never interrupting, letting her speak at her own pace. They nodded and reassured her, telling her that she was not at fault and that she had done the right thing by seeking help. They also gently asked her questions to understand her situation better, without making her feel interrogated. The little girl explained that the night she ran away had been particularly bad. Her father had yelled at her for something she hadn't done, and she feared he might hurt her badly. That fear had pushed her to run, to seek safety even if she did not know where to go. The woman biker who had been talking softly to her asked if she had any other evidence of the abuse. The girl hesitated, then reached deeper into her bag and pulled out the cell phone. She explained that sometimes her father had sent threatening messages and she had kept them as proof. She also mentioned that she had secretly taken pictures on the phone when she could, capturing moments that could show what life at home was really like. The bikers looked at each other, understanding the courage it must have taken for such a small child to gather this evidence without anyone knowing. They knew it would be crucial for protecting her. One of the bikers took out his phone and discreetly confirmed with the authorities that help was on the way. He explained the urgency of the situation, emphasizing the evidence the girl had. They decided to stay close to her, making sure she felt supported while keeping an eye on the surroundings to ensure no one could approach unexpectedly. The little girl, still trembling, began to feel a small sense of relief. For the first time in a long while, she was not alone. She could feel that the bikers genuinely cared about her safety. As the minutes passed, they continued to engage her in conversation. They asked about her favorite things, her school, and her friends. At first she was shy and hesitant, her voice barely above a whisper. Gradually, however, she started to share small details, smiling faintly at memories of happier moments. The bikers encouraged her, showing genuine interest and kindness, helping her see that there were adults who could be trusted and who would protect her. The little girl's bag, once a source of fear and secrecy, now seemed to become a bridge to safety. The notebook, the papers, and the phone, all the things she had kept hidden, were now tools that could help her escape the danger she had lived with for so long. The bikers recognized the importance of these items and handled them gently, making sure the girl understood that her courage and foresight were being respected. When a patrol car finally arrived, the bikers explained everything to the officers: the girl's fear, the abuse, the evidence she had collected, and the immediate danger she had escaped. The authorities quickly took over, providing a safe space for the girl and starting the process to investigate her father. The bikers stayed nearby, offering support and reassurance, making sure the girl did not feel abandoned as the situation moved forward. The little girl, still clutching her bag, felt a mixture of relief and nervousness. She was safe, but the reality of what had happened was starting to sink in. The bikers encouraged her gently, telling her she had been brave and that what she had done could help her regain a life without fear. They reminded her that she had taken the first step toward safety by seeking help and sharing her story. As the night continued, the girl began to relax slightly, the tension in her small body easing bit by bit. She looked at the bikers with gratitude, sensing that these people were different from the adults who had failed her in the past. They were listening, protecting, and believing her. It was a powerful realization for a child who had lived in silence for so long. The bikers made sure the girl knew that she could trust them and that they would continue to look out for her even after the authorities took her to a safe place. They reassured her that the bag she held so tightly, full of her courage and evidence, had helped her reach safety. It was no longer just a bag of fear. It was a symbol of her bravery and the beginning of a life where she could finally be protected. By the time the girl was taken to the safe location by the authorities, she had started to feel the first real sense of hope in a long time. The bikers watched from a distance, feeling a mix of pride and relief. They knew the journey ahead would not be easy for her, but they also knew that the small actions they had taken could make a huge difference in her life. They had helped a child in need, and in doing so, had given her the chance to start anew, to be heard and to be safe. The little girl, with her bag full of secrets and courage, had taken the first step toward a life where fear would no longer control her. After the authorities arrived and took the little girl to a safe location, the bikers did not leave. They knew that her story was far from over, and that her courage had only just begun to be tested. The evidence she had collected, the notebook, the papers, the cell phone, was crucial, and they wanted to ensure she felt supported during this frightening transition. They stayed nearby, waiting outside the building, quietly discussing how to help her navigate the difficult moments that would follow. Inside the safe location, the little girl was introduced to professionals trained to help children in crisis. She clutched her bag tightly, unwilling to let it go, and the workers respected her need for comfort. The bikers had already explained to the girl that she could trust the people inside, and slowly, she began to calm down. Her voice was soft, but she started to describe some of the moments she had recorded in her notebook. Each word was carefully chosen, as though she was afraid of being disbelieved, but the workers listened patiently, nodding, validating her feelings. Meanwhile, the bikers sat outside, sharing stories of children they had helped in the past. They talked quietly about the strength it took for someone so young to act when facing danger. They understood that the little girl's bravery was extraordinary, not only for escaping but also for secretly documenting her situation. It was a reminder to them of how resilient children could be, even in circumstances that would break adults. Inside, the girl was asked to show her bag to the authorities. She hesitated, but the bikers had prepared her for this moment. She slowly opened it, revealing the notebook, drawings, papers, and phone. The workers carefully examined the items, impressed by the thoughtfulness and courage of the little girl. Each piece of evidence painted a vivid picture of the fear and abuse she had endured, and it became clear that legal action would need to follow swiftly to protect her from further harm. The bikers could see the relief in the girl's eyes, even as she remained quiet. For the first time in years, she felt that someone was truly taking her side. The workers explained that the evidence she had gathered would be instrumental in ensuring her father could not hurt her again. It was a moment of validation for the little girl, who had doubted whether anyone would believe her. As the evening turned into night, the bikers continued to sit nearby, talking quietly to one another. They discussed the importance of building trust with the girl and helping her understand that she was not alone. They wanted to make sure that when she looked back on this night, she would remember not only the fear she had felt, but also the kindness and protection offered by strangers who cared. Inside, the girl was given a chance to talk more about her feelings and dreams. She spoke softly about her school, the friends she missed, and the things she wanted to do when she was safe. The workers encouraged her to imagine a life where she could laugh without fear and go to sleep without worry. The girl's imagination, once stifled by fear, began to bloom again, small but bright, a light in the darkness she had known for so long. The bikers outside noticed that the authorities were moving quickly to ensure her father would be investigated and that she would remain safe. They discussed strategies for how they could continue to support her from a distance, understanding that the legal process could be slow and intimidating for a child. Their goal was simple: to provide a sense of stability and protection while she navigated the uncertain days ahead. Back inside, the little girl carefully organized her bag, placing the notebook and papers in a safe spot. She realized that these items, once sources of fear and secrecy, had now become powerful tools. They were the reason she had reached safety, and the reason the adults around her were taking her seriously. The realization gave her a small sense of pride, even amid the overwhelming emotion she felt. The bikers, who had spent years helping others, understood that their role had shifted. They were no longer just rescuers. They were supporters, witnesses to a young girl's courage. They knew that their presence alone could help her feel stronger, even if they were not inside the building with her at all times. They respected the boundaries set by the professionals but remained ready to step in whenever needed. As the night deepened, the little girl slowly began to relax. She was given a small bed to sleep on, her bag still beside her. The workers reminded her that she could keep her items close and that they were safe with her. She drifted off to sleep, exhausted but a little lighter than she had been when she first ran into the park. The bikers watched from a distance, feeling a mix of pride and hope. They knew the road ahead would be challenging, but they also knew that this night marked a turning point in the little girl's life. The next day, the girl woke up in a safe environment. She still held her bag tightly, but her fear had diminished slightly. She was introduced to more helpers who explained how the investigation would proceed and how she would be protected from any contact with her father. The bikers who had kept in touch offered words of encouragement and gentle reassurance. They reminded her of her bravery and that she was not alone, reinforcing the sense of security that had begun to grow the night before. Throughout the day, the little girl shared more of her notebook and drawings with the professionals. Each page revealed a story of courage, resilience, and hope. The bikers listened and helped her understand that these items were not just memories of fear, but symbols of her strength. They encouraged her to continue expressing herself, whether through drawing, writing, or talking about her feelings, emphasizing that her voice mattered. Meanwhile, the authorities acted on the evidence she had provided. The girl's father was located and taken into custody, ensuring he could no longer threaten her safety. The bikers were informed of the developments and quietly celebrated the first significant step toward permanent protection. They knew that justice would not be immediate, but they understood that the little girl had already taken incredible steps to reclaim her life. In the following days, the bikers maintained contact, checking in on her progress and offering support. The little girl began to trust adults again, slowly opening her heart to the idea that not everyone would hurt her. She started to speak more freely, laugh a little, and even make tentative plans for the future. The bikers encouraged her every step of the way, celebrating small victories and comforting her during moments of doubt or fear. The little girl's bag remained with her, a constant reminder of the night she found help and the bravery it had taken to reach that point. The notebook, the papers, and the phone had become symbols of hope, evidence of her courage and tools for ensuring her safety. The bikers emphasized the importance of her actions, helping her understand that she had played an active role in protecting herself, even as a child. Over time, the girl began to rebuild her life. She returned to school, made new friends, and found joy in small things that had once seemed impossible. The bikers continued to support her, checking in regularly and offering guidance when needed. They had become more than rescuers. They were mentors and protectors, helping her navigate a world that had once felt unsafe. The little girl's story, once filled with fear and uncertainty, began to shift toward hope and possibility. Her courage, documented in the notebook and papers she had carried in her bag, had set in motion a series of events that ensured her safety and gave her a chance to dream again. The bikers, who had acted quickly and with compassion, had made a lasting impact on her life, demonstrating that even in the darkest moments, kindness and bravery could change everything. Days passed, and the little girl slowly began to settle into her new environment. The safe location was calm, quiet, and filled with people whose job was to protect children like her. She still held onto her bag, now more out of comfort than fear. Inside, the notebook, papers, and phone were no longer just evidence. They had become symbols of her courage and the first steps toward freedom. The bikers continued to check in, making sure she had someone to talk to who understood her journey and could encourage her during difficult moments. The girl started to meet other children in similar situations. At first, she was shy, hesitant to open up or play. She had spent so long being afraid that trust was not easy for her to give. The bikers encouraged her gently, reminding her that it was okay to take her time. They reassured her that she had already shown incredible bravery, and every small step she took now was just as important. The girl began to observe the other children, noticing that they too had stories, fears, and hopes. Slowly, she began to feel less alone. One day, the bikers brought her small art supplies, encouraging her to continue drawing and writing. They told her that expressing herself could help her feel safe and strong. She hesitated at first, then slowly began to create pictures of her dreams instead of just her fears. She drew parks, friends, schools, and bright skies. The bikers praised her work, showing genuine interest and admiration, which helped her gain confidence. The little girl started to feel proud of her creativity, realizing that she had more than fear in her life. She had imagination, hope, and people who cared about her. Meanwhile, the authorities worked on ensuring her father would face the consequences of his actions. The bikers were informed of every step, and they relayed the information to the girl in a gentle, age-appropriate way. They explained that he would not be able to hurt her anymore, and that she was now safe. The girl's eyes filled with tears, not from fear this time, but from relief. For the first time, she could feel a sense of security that went beyond temporary safety. As the legal process continued, the little girl began to open up more to the bikers and the staff at the safe location. She shared memories, talked about her hopes for school, and even started to plan small activities for herself. The bikers encouraged her to dream big, telling her that she deserved happiness, freedom, and a life without fear. Slowly, a sense of normalcy began to return to her days. She started sleeping better, smiling more, and even laughing softly when she felt comfortable. The little girl's bag remained with her at all times. She began to view it differently now. It was no longer just a shield of fear. It was a reminder of her bravery and the journey she had undertaken to find safety. The notebook, papers, and phone had helped her escape, and now they symbolized her strength and the protection she had earned. The bikers reminded her often that her actions, small and large, had made a difference in her life and would continue to help her grow stronger. In the evenings, the bikers would come to visit, sitting quietly with her and talking about normal, everyday things. They shared stories about their rides, the people they had helped, and small lessons about courage and trust. The girl listened closely, fascinated by their stories, and gradually she began to feel comfortable sharing her own. She would describe the small victories of her day, moments that made her happy, and even her little worries. The bikers listened, validated her feelings, and offered gentle advice, helping her feel understood and supported. One afternoon, the bikers suggested a small trip to a nearby park. The little girl hesitated at first, unsure if it was safe to leave the protected environment. But the bikers explained everything carefully, promising to stay close and make sure nothing bad could happen. She eventually agreed, and for the first time in a long while, she ran and played freely, laughing without fear. The experience was transformative, showing her that the world could hold joy and not just danger. The legal process took time, and during this period, the little girl continued to rely on the bikers for emotional support. They were there for appointments, offering a familiar, comforting presence and helping her feel brave when things seemed overwhelming. They celebrated her successes, small and large, and reassured her during setbacks, teaching her that growth and healing were not always linear. Slowly, the little girl began to envision a future beyond the safe location. She started planning what she would do once she could return to school, imagining herself making friends, participating in activities, and learning new things. The bikers encouraged her to dream, reminding her that her past did not define her future. They praised her creativity and determination, helping her feel proud of who she was becoming. Throughout all this, the girl's connection with her bag remained strong. It contained the evidence that had protected her and the items that had been with her through fear and courage. She carefully maintained it, understanding that it was not just a bag, it was part of her story. The bikers reinforced this idea, reminding her that her courage and foresight had been essential to her safety. Over the weeks, the little girl's confidence grew. She began to speak more openly with adults, share her feelings without fear, and participate in activities she had once avoided. The bikers watched proudly, knowing that their early intervention and continued support had helped her find a sense of trust and stability. They continued to provide guidance, encouragement, and protection, ensuring she never felt alone again. Eventually, the authorities concluded their investigation, and the girl's father faced serious consequences. The little girl, now feeling safer and more empowered, could finally begin to process everything that had happened. She started to embrace the idea that she could have a life filled with hope, friendship, and opportunities to grow. The bikers reminded her that she had already shown incredible strength and that her actions had paved the way for this new chapter. The community around her began to recognize the bravery of the little girl and the bikers who had helped her. Her story became a quiet example of courage, showing that ordinary people can become heroes when they act with compassion and quick thinking. The little girl's life, once defined by fear, was slowly transforming into a life of hope and possibility. With the bikers' continued support, the little girl started to build a routine, one that included school, friendships, and creative activities. She still held on to her bag, now a symbol of her bravery and resilience. The bikers remained part of her life, mentors and protectors who helped her navigate the challenges ahead. Their presence was a constant reminder that she was not alone, and that there were people who would always believe in her. As she grew more confident, the little girl began to dream of the future. She imagined herself learning, laughing, and making memories in a safe and loving environment. The bikers encouraged these dreams, reinforcing the idea that her courage had opened the door to a world filled with possibilities. They reminded her that the steps she had taken, small and brave, had created a foundation for a life free from fear. The little girl's story, once filled with darkness and uncertainty, was now being rewritten with hope, safety, and resilience. Her bag, once a symbol of fear, was now a reminder of courage and strength. The bikers had played a crucial role, showing her that kindness, trust, and protection could change a life. And as she continued to grow and heal, the little girl carried with her the knowledge that she was brave, capable, and deserving of a life filled with light and possibility. As the days turned into weeks, the little girl grew stronger and more confident. She had found safety and a sense of normalcy, and the bikers continued to be a supportive presence in her life. They visited regularly, offering encouragement, guidance, and reassurance. Each visit reminded her that she was not alone, and that there were people who genuinely cared about her well-being. The little girl, who had once been consumed by fear, was slowly learning to trust again, understanding that not everyone in the world would hurt her. Her bag, which had been a source of fear and secrecy, had now become a symbol of her courage. She carried it proudly, knowing that it contained the items that had helped her escape danger and prove her situation to the authorities. The notebook, papers, and phone inside the bag were no longer just evidence. They represented her strength, her resourcefulness, and her determination to survive. The bikers reinforced this idea, praising her bravery and reminding her that she had played an active role in protecting herself. The little girl began to engage more with her surroundings. She returned to school, where she met new teachers and classmates who were kind and understanding. She started to participate in activities she had once avoided, from drawing and reading to playing outside with other children. Each small step was a victory, and the bikers celebrated these moments with her, helping her see that she could enjoy life without fear. Her confidence grew with every smile, every laugh, and every new experience. The authorities continued their work, ensuring that the girl's father would face the consequences of his actions. The legal process was ongoing, but the little girl felt a sense of security knowing that she was protected. The bikers explained each step to her in a gentle and reassuring way, helping her understand what was happening and why it was necessary. They emphasized that she had already done so much to ensure her safety, and now the adults around her were taking care of the rest. As time passed, the little girl began to open up about her feelings, sharing her fears, hopes, and dreams. She talked about the things she wanted to do, the places she wanted to visit, and the friends she wanted to make. The bikers listened patiently, offering support and encouragement. They helped her understand that it was okay to feel scared sometimes, but that she had the strength to overcome challenges and that she deserved happiness and safety. The little girl's bag remained a constant companion. She had reorganized it, placing the notebook and papers in a safe spot and keeping the phone close by. It was more than just a bag. It was a reminder of her journey, her bravery, and the people who had helped her. The bikers often reminded her of this, praising her for her courage and resourcefulness. They encouraged her to continue expressing herself through writing and drawing, helping her process her emotions and build resilience. Over time, the little girl started to build friendships with other children at school and in the community. She learned to trust again, understanding that there were people who would listen and care for her. The bikers encouraged these connections, emphasizing the importance of support and companionship. They celebrated her successes, no matter how small, and comforted her during setbacks, teaching her that healing was a gradual process. The little girl also began to explore her interests and talents. She discovered a love for art, spending hours drawing and painting, often sharing her creations with the bikers. They praised her work, encouraging her creativity and helping her see that she had skills and talents that could bring joy to herself and others. Through these activities, she gained a sense of accomplishment and pride, further building her confidence and self-esteem. As the legal process continued, the authorities ensured that the little girl remained safe from her father. The bikers explained the importance of this protection, helping her understand that the steps being taken were to keep her secure. She began to feel a sense of relief, knowing that the danger she had faced was being addressed and that she could focus on her future without constant fear. The biker's presence provided a sense of stability and reassurance, reinforcing her belief that she was not alone and that she had people who would always support her. The little girl's life began to transform. She started to dream about her future, imagining herself learning, playing, and enjoying life without fear. The bikers encouraged her to pursue these dreams, emphasizing that her past did not define her and that she had the power to shape her own future. They reminded her that her courage had brought her this far and that she could continue to be strong, brave, and resilient. In addition to school and creative activities, the little girl began to participate in community events with the bikers. She attended charity rides, festivals, and local gatherings, experiencing a world that had once seemed distant and unsafe. These experiences helped her build social skills, confidence, and a sense of belonging. The bikers guided her through each event, offering support and encouragement, ensuring that she felt comfortable and included. The little girl also began to reflect on her journey. She understood the significance of the actions she had taken to protect herself, from running away to gathering evidence in her bag. She realized that she had been brave and resourceful, and that these qualities had helped her reach safety and stability. The bikers reinforced this understanding, praising her for her courage and resilience, helping her see that she had the power to overcome challenges. As the weeks turned into months, the little girl's confidence and independence continued to grow. She learned to navigate her environment with more ease, interact with others, and express her emotions in healthy ways. The bikers remained a consistent source of support, helping her build trust, confidence, and a sense of security. They celebrated her achievements, comforted her during difficult moments, and encouraged her to continue pursuing her dreams. Eventually, the little girl's father faced the consequences of his actions. The authorities ensured that she would no longer be at risk, allowing her to focus on her future and personal growth. The bikers explained the situation to her in a gentle and reassuring way, helping her understand that justice had been served and that she could now fully embrace her safety and freedom. The little girl's bag, once a symbol of fear and secrecy, had become a symbol of her bravery and resilience. She continued to carry it with her, understanding that it represented her journey and the strength she had shown. The bikers reminded her of this frequently, helping her see that her courage had made a difference in her life and would continue to guide her as she grew. With the bikers' support, the little girl began to envision a bright future. She imagined herself learning, playing, and building relationships without fear. She dreamed of school achievements, friendships, and adventures in the community. The bikers encouraged these dreams, helping her believe in her potential and reinforcing that her past did not define her future. They reminded her that she had already overcome so much and that she had the strength to continue growing and thriving. Over time, the little girl's story became an example of courage and resilience in the community. People admired her bravery and the support of the bikers who had helped her. Her journey showed that ordinary people could make a profound difference in someone's life through kindness, courage, and action. The little girl, once consumed by fear, had transformed into a confident, brave child with hope and dreams for the future. The bikers continued to be a part of her life, offering guidance, mentorship, and friendship. They encouraged her to pursue her passions, build relationships, and embrace new experiences. The little girl, with her bag full of memories, evidence, and courage, had grown stronger and more confident, understanding that she was not defined by her past but by the choices she made and the bravery she had shown. In the end, the little girl's life was no longer defined by fear or danger. She had found safety, support, and hope. The bikers had played a crucial role in her journey, showing her that kindness, courage, and quick action could change a life. The little girl, carrying her bag and her strength, continued to grow, dream, and thrive, a living example of resilience, bravery, and the power of human compassion.